Hello.
Hello.
Thomas?
Yes, is that Stacy?
Hey, yes. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. Good. So,
I just
thank
logged
you
on a little
for.
early.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
Okay, cool. I'm going to go on mute, but I'm here. I'm just doing some typing and stuff.
Sure, that's fine.
Okay.
For the other folks who have joined us already, I am going to be muting all the participant channels so that we make sure that there's not any background noise that pops up, in the middle of everything. I'll talk a little once we get started about how you can communicate with us because we do want to take your questions as we get into it. So it's nothing personal, just trying to keep the feed as clean as we can. Hi, Alyssa. How are you doing?
Good. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing pretty well.
Am I the first one on?
No, we've got a couple of people here as well. And Stacy is on. She's just she's got a couple of things she's working on in the background. It sounds like we're getting just a little bit of background from you. Are you on a speakerphone or a microphone?
Yeah, I'm through my computer.
Okay. No, it's not. I mean, it's not too bad. It's apparently a very good mic, so there's that.
I just muted my regular phone. I can try. Let me see. I mean, I can try calling in, if that's better.
Yeah, let's. If you don't mind, we have a little bit of time. If you could try that, just to see if we can get the best quality we can.
Sure. Hey, Tom.
Hi.
Is that better or worse?
I think that sounds better.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a little bit better. If you don't mind keeping it up that way.
Oh, no, that's fine. I just did it through my phone, so.
Okay.
How many people signed up?
The last count I saw was 24.
Okay.
So we're still a little bit early, so we should have a few more coming in.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Kim.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, I
Hi,
can.
Kim. How are you doing?
Good.
Good. Well, that's great. We've got our panelists, so that's always nice.
That's good.
It's generally a good way to start webinars, I found. But
Tom, did you get the little blurb I just sent you? About 40 minutes ago, I think.
let me check. Yes, I did get that. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Sorry, it was 11th hour.
No, not a problem.
Literally.
Okay, we've still got a couple people logging in, so we'll give them just a couple minutes before we get started. Thank you, everybody who is here already and logged in. Okay, I'm going to get things rolling. Good afternoon, everybody, or good morning if you're joining us from the West. Welcome to the latest in the AM&P webinar series. Today, as you may know, we'll be talking about where associations are focusing their publishing and communication resources in the coming year. I'm Thomas Marcetti. I'm the Associate Editor of Signature Magazine. Before I get started, I just want to let you know that we are muting all the participant channels. Please don't take this personally. We do want to hear from you, and I'll talk to you in just a little bit more about that in a minute. But this is just to help to make sure that we're avoiding any of the occasional accidental background noises, or if you feel the need to cough or sneeze, you can do so with indiscretion. So I'm going to begin by asking our panelists a few questions, and then we're going to open up for questions from all of you. Please type those into that chat window at the bottom left of the Ready Talk window, and I'll be monitoring that, and we'll toss those in as we go along. So with that, I would like to have our panelists introduce themselves. Alyssa, why don't you start us off? Can you tell us who you are and a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. So my name is Alyssa Lambert. I am the Managing Editor of Trial Magazine and the Associate Director of Publications at the American Association for Justice based in Washington, D.C. We have a monthly print magazine called Trial Magazine that comes out, like I said, it's monthly. We also have some online publications as well. I've been with the association for 6 years. Before that, I was a trial attorney. And so I work on running all the day-to-day operations for the magazine, and also am involved with the other publications that we have here.
Great. Thank you, Alyssa. Kim, why don't you go next?
Sure. This is Kim Tete. I'm the Vice President of National Accounts for GTXL. We're a digital and mobile publishing provider, and I've been working with associations for the last 13 years on digital and mobile solutions. We work with about 125 associations on their content. Previously, before probably the last 7 or 8 years or so, it was all digital and basically replica, but now it's really moved into a more mobile-first mindset. And so we focus on a lot of the mobile content for publishers.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Welcome. And Stacy, why don't you bring us home?
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Stacy Brooks. I'm the Communications Manager at the American Physiological Society. We're based in Rockville, Maryland. And so on a day-to-day basis, I'm overseeing media relations and social media for approximately 10,000 member Association of Biomedical Researchers. We have about 14 peer-reviewed journals that we publish from APS. So a lot of our time is spent promoting what's going on with the research coming out from the journals, and a number of things new that are coming down the pike for us that I'll talk a little bit about later. But we're kind of shifting our focus a little more in the organization to focus on overall branding and overall strategy for APS, as opposed to a little bit of focus on heavier focus on a lot of our silos that we've got here. So before coming to APS, I was in the communications office at the American College of OBGYNs for about 8 years. And before that, I did a 4-year stint at APS after a couple years at Ogilvy Public Relations back in the early 2000s. And that's it.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, so let's dive right in. The question of the hour, the reason we're all here. Let's start with Kim. Where do you see associations, or where do you see your association clients focusing or looking to focus their publishing and communication resources in 2019, and why?
Well, a lot of our clients are coming to us, and I've had conversations both at AM&P and other association events with clients that are struggling a little bit on putting their content everywhere. It's, the print and then digital in a digital format, and then obviously, as I said, mobile. Mobile is just such a huge place now, and a lot of the associations don't have resources, a large publishing staff or a lot of resources to get that done, but they're expected to have those the publications everywhere. And a lot of what the questions are is whether to put it on in a website, which a mobile responsive website that's mobile optimized, or to continue with a mobile version of the publication itself. And a lot of those are internal struggles, and also about sort of culture of the organizations as to how those things are produced. So that seems to be a lot of the questions we're getting. And also, we are getting questions too on something called Wick Act. It's the web content accessibility guidelines, and that is really coming to the forefront now for a lot of publishers to have their content and however they're delivering it digitally be accessible. And so that's a big initiative that we've been working on based on conversations with our publishers and sort of what's important to them.
Great. Can you talk a little bit more about that, like what goes into the Wick Act?
Well, Wick Act, they have very, very specific guidelines, and a lot of associations may be very familiar with it, but it's more of a digital version of what I don't remember the number that it was called, but there was an accessibility, I want to say maybe it was a 528 rule or something like that, but it had to do with accessibility for content. And now Wick Ag is really a whole initiative. There are you have to get certified, and there's a Wick Ag certification, and there's a whole process. And it's become very, very important to both mainstream for-profit publishers and then nonprofit publishers, and especially we've seen a lot of conversations happening with nonprofit publishers due to the membership and having to provide accessible content to all members. From our standpoint, it's not really a revenue-generating piece, but it's just something that we have decided after talking to publishers is a very important initiative to put forward. So we are going to be Wick Ag compliant for our digital and mobile publications coming up later this year and early next year. That'll be completed. But it was a big initiative, and that was all based on customer feedback and what they needed from their customers or their readers.
Great. Thank you for that. So to go back to something you mentioned in the first part of your answer, you talked a lot about the digital accessibility and getting on the right platform. Well, I think that has become a priority for publishers now. I mean, digital's been here for a long time. I mean, as I've heard it, digital killed print about 10 years ago. So why are we just now getting to digital?
Well, in working with a lot of the for-profit publishers initially, and then really digging in and working with associations, it seemed like there was a lot more, I don't know exactly what the right word is, but associations were not moving as quickly into the digital world as a lot of other publishers had, like B2B and consumer publishers. But
sure.
Once they moved into the digital world, it was then how did they want to go forward with a replica type, and then came 2007 I think it was, then came the phones and the tablets and everything else, and apps. So there's just a lot of decisions to be made, and traditionally we found that there's more decision makers and a bigger decision making process at associations. I don't know if everybody on the phone would agree with me, but a lot of things are done by committee. A lot of things take a long time to do. So they may not have moved as quickly as they wanted to. And now with the option to do a responsive website and put the content on the website, or create a microsite, or have a more of a subscription model where you can send out a mobile-friendly or digital and mobile-friendly version, and then having the advertising tied into it as well as to where the advertising dollars are going to. We don't advocate at all that any of this digital replaces print, because everyone, I believe, will agree that there are always members that just want their print publication, and that always have and always will, and that's great. This is more of a compliment, or if maybe you're trying to get to newer members. But I think that the key is, and I saw something on the listserv when you were asking Tom about, I think it was buzzwords or what's next, and someone piped in with let them have what they want, which that's really delivering the content wherever your members want to read it and where they'll engage with it. You want to be able to offer print, you want to be able to offer digital, you want to be able to offer the advertisers something for their revenue that they're bringing in as well. So it's really just trying to please everybody, but now it's coming to a place where you almost can deliver it to the members wherever they want it, literally in the palm of their hand.
Right. Thank you very much. Alyssa, why don't we swing over to you? Where is your association focusing its publishing resources, or where do you kind of plan to in the coming year?
Yeah, I mean, part of, like Kim said, obviously the struggle is in terms of going digital. We actually did a reader survey last year, and overwhelmingly our readers said that they still preferred the print, which was good information to have and was interesting. But our magazine and our other publications are online, so they can read them that way. But yeah, with mobile being by far the most popular way that people tend to read anything, there's always the challenge of that. So part of what we're going to be doing, and this is a broader conversation in our association generally, is we're going to be overhauling our website. So hopefully as part of that, we will be making the publications a lot more digital friendly in terms of finding the content and finding related content across the association. But for us too, most of our revenue comes from advertising. We've started to try and get more advertisers for our online publications, but we still get most of our revenue from our print advertisers for Trial Magazine. So we're going to be doing some social media campaigns to that end to try and increase advertising. Another thing is, as part of the reader survey, we got feedback in terms of what readers liked, what they didn't like, what they wanted to see, and so we're redesigning a few of our departments to modernize it, and that's something we're obviously always conscious of. And part of the digital conversation too is that our membership has really changed over the last few years. And so we have a lot of newer members, recent law school grads, young attorneys who they get a lot of their information digitally. So it's both in terms of accessibility for them, but it's also content. So tech-based pieces, we have a department called Tech Bites. Things like that is where we're really trying to target our attention this coming year.
Excellent. You mentioned a reader survey. Was that kind of the catalyst for some of these focuses that you're taking a look at now, or was there something else that happened and then the reader survey was kind of like an intermediary step?
We hadn't done a reader survey in a few years, and we usually try to do one every few years. And so when we did this one last year, we wanted to really specifically target certain areas because we knew that the membership has been changing over the years. We knew that just the age we're in, where digital is such a huge component. So it was kind of both. The website overhaul that's ongoing at the association, that's something that's been talked about for just a little bit, but now it's actually happening and moving forward.
Sure, great, thank you. And Stacy, so your focus is a little bit more on communications, but why don't you tell us what you kind of see the focus being for you and your team going forward?
Yeah, so we are in a kind of unique position for our particular society. We're kind of in a change phase. We, over the summer, had the retirement of our executive director who had been here for 33 years, and we brought on a new executive director back in July who has a very different eye toward marketing, communications, and just branding in general of the organization. So we are also, in addition to that change in leadership coming off of a strategic plan that finished up last year, we are in the process of getting a new website for our overall organization now, and launched a new website for our publications platforms in December. And we also just moved to new offices. I think we just are doing all of it all at once, and we've just contracted to do a rebranding. So with all of that going on, we're at the point where I think we're taking a closer look at a lot of different aspects of our organization. When I was thinking about this question in particular, I feel like it boils down to 3 R's, and for us that'd be redefining APS, reassessing, and reimagining. So we've always, in terms of redefining, been known as a trustworthy and dependable organization, but I think that also, for a lot of people, has equated with old. So we're trying to change some of those perceptions, still keeping the trustworthy and dependable, but also adding to that mix innovative and maybe nimble and hopefully strategic. That's something that we definitely need as kind of a foundation for all that we're doing moving forward. And then in terms of reassessing, we're taking a hard look at our programs and whether they're effective, are they achieving the desired result. I think we're also looking at that on the publication side to see if we're keeping up with what the trends are and maybe where our opportunities are to trailblaze. So our publications department has really been looking at the competitive landscape in scientific publishing, and biomedical research, and seeing what some new opportunities might be there. We recently contracted with a strategic marketing firm to rethink the pillars of our publications brand, what the value to authors is for publishing with us. And we've been really spending a lot of time figuring out how we can push out all those messages and see where those messages might apply in other places in the organization, making sure that we're dotting T's and crossing I's, and I think I said that wrong, but dotting I's and crossing the T's that would make all of these new pillars and messages that we've developed really speak volumes across multiple places, multiple touch points on social media, on our website. Of course, as I mentioned, with a new website coming, we're re-looking at how everything interconnects, all of the content that we have. We were just in a website redesign meeting yesterday or a couple days ago, and we heard that we had like 10,000 pages on the website, and a large percentage of them had not been visited even once in the last year or so. So just looking at like all of the stuff that we've got just kind of hanging out there and figuring out a smarter way to use all of it. And then with the reimagining, I think we've just been looking at our programs and whether they're exciting or popular, and if they aren't, why aren't they? And how do we rethink what we're offering, making sure that we're, talking. I loved that quote about let them have what they want, because I think with a membership model, everybody just really needs to be thinking about what people are looking for as opposed to what we've always done because we've always done it. So we're just really taking a hard look at how we do business and if it's really driving home the value to the members in the long run.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a question in the chat going back to Alyssa. Elizabeth just wanted to know if the survey that you did was performed in-house or did you use a third party?
We used a third party.
What was the particular reason for that, the decision to do it that way?
Well, sometimes we have done surveys, and I know other organizations use it too, like SurveyMonkey, but this is a company we had used in the past. And so what they can do for us is a little bit beyond of what you can usually do in-house in terms of they came up with some really great PowerPoints that summarize the statistics, and we're able to analyze the data in a way that we're just not capable of doing. So it was really helpful for us going forward in terms of figuring out how we wanted to use the feedback, and also just in presenting some of the data in terms of how many members valued it as a trial magazine and the publications overall as a membership benefit, things like that. It was just beyond what we could do. So.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Kim, if budgets were not an issue, if resources weren't an issue, if association could kind of just do whatever they needed to, whatever they wanted to, what would you be recommending to your clients for them to be focusing on now?
I would recommend that, and I know we've kind of all touched on it a little bit, but that they listen to the members. And not the same program or not the same, I think, platform will work for every organization. So part of when we're having initial discussions with our customers or potential customers is really what type of organization are they and where are they going to put the resources and their dollars. So I'm not sure if it was Stacy. I think it was Stacy saying that they were going to be redesigning their website and incorporating the publications into the website, which is what a lot of organizations do. But then sometimes they do keep the publications sort of separately and outside and do a mobile version of that. And that's really usually driven by how the members want to engage with the publication or the content itself. Whether or not putting it on a site in article form is what the look and feel is, or if they want to sell advertising surrounding that. Back, the revenue question, that some associations we work with, they don't have any advertising at all. They're only really member-driven, dues-driven, and that's the publication. But then others are completely, or at least highly revenue supported through the advertising dollars. So yes, you may not get the same digital dollars, but there are advertisers out there now. That landscape is changing a little bit too, where the advertisers are looking more for a digital offering. What do you have digital? I want to do print, but what do you have to offer me digitally for my dollars? So the other piece too is whether or not, like you said, if resources were not an option, if you want to do everything in-house or if you want to outsource. I think you recently just had a webinar or lunch and learn or something on outsourcing. Those are things to consider as well. Do you have the staff? Do you want to do the work in-house and start an initiative with the people that probably already have regular jobs, a new initiative to do something else? Or do you just want an outside firm that specializes? Again, these are all internal questions, and I think because there are so many questions, sometimes this is what causes a little bit of more of a lengthy process. But there's a woman named Shelley Alcorn. I don't know if people have heard her present, but she presents a lot in the association world, and I think she's wonderful. And one of these quotes I heard her presenting at a conference, she said, "Don't let your process interfere with your progress." And I think that's a big challenge for a lot of associations is the process. But I think everyone would really like to have unlimited budget and unlimited resources. But I did moderate a roundtable, an AM&P roundtable one time, and when we sat around going around the table before we started the topic, we were talking about the size of the associations, of the staffs, and then we were talking about the publications. And the stat was usually anywhere, the ones that were at the tables were usually anywhere between 20 and say 40 employees. So small to medium sized associations. And then they all talked about the magazine being one of the top 3 in every member survey as one of the top benefits, but then the publishing staffs were sometimes just 2 to 3 people. So it was really trying to keep that one of those top 3 member benefits going and current and new with very limited resources. Gotcha.
Thank you. Alyssa, the same question. If resources were not a hurdle for you, what would you want to be doing in your association in the coming year?
Yeah, I think part of what Kim touched on is it's obviously always a staffing, so you need more staff in order to do more. Again, as part of the website redesign we're doing, there's a lot of conversations about what do we want, and then that leads to, well, what can we do based upon the number of people we currently have. So again, Trial Magazine comes out monthly. It's print, so we're confined by those restrictions on timing of production, but we also have an online publication called Trial News that's more time sensitive and also a little more cutting edge in terms of what we can cover. But the way websites are now is you want to be able to publish news on a daily basis. So yeah, that would be absolutely great to be able to do that. It's just a matter of finding the best way to do it and having the people to do it. That being said too, back 10, 15 years ago, our staff was double the size and our magazine was almost double the size. So that's obviously, if budget was no matter, I mean, that would probably be something to consider too, to increasing the size of the magazine, something that isn't anything we can do right now. It's usually anywhere between 64 and 72 pages, which is a good size, but.
Okay, so it sounds like just like more content, just daily news and content for your members is what you would like to do.
More content and just be able to be a little more responsive in terms of the content we can put on the website.
Great, thank you. And Stacy, what would you do with unlimited resources?
Yeah, I think my answer would is a little bit similar to Alyssa's. If I had more time, and this would be the main thing that we would need to accomplish this, and I'm sure also staff, extra staff, because we're a two-person, we're a six-person Marcom department, but two people really are the ones that are writing in our comms department, and so we know that we're going to be with our new website shifting a lot to storytelling, and that takes time. Telling good stories takes time, especially when I think we're trying to link a lot of our research that sometimes is one-off discoveries that are coming out in our journals, being published near daily, if not for sure daily, publications of new physiology research, tying those into the context of what's going on and resonating and just developments in health and medicine today. So just really being able to connect a lot of those dots and craft narratives that make sense. And again, which goes along with that is previewing how our members figure in, so telling the human side behind the research. So I think to do that really well, which I think is something that our new executive director is open to, or actually is definitely pushing us in the direction of, is really capturing the stories of our members, seeing them working in the lab, getting photographs of them working in the lab, and connecting those to the research advances that they're making, and then tying those advances into the current storyline of what's going on in health and medicine, and what even the general public or other stakeholders that maybe are outside of the research domain can understand. I also think we spend a lot of time talking to our members about plain language communication, so translating dense, sometimes kind of esoteric research into easy to understand chunks is time consuming as well. So more time for great storytelling.
Sure, great, thank you. So at this point, I do want to open up and just encourage anyone who has any questions for any of the audience to go ahead and put them into the chat, and we'll start. I'll start working through those as we go along. I do have a couple of questions prepared, so I'm just going to kind of keep things rolling, and we'll throw to your questions as they come in. So the next question, let's go back to Alyssa to start this one off. Okay, we do have a question from the audience. What digital advertising opportunities are being offered by associations that have been particularly successful, and why have those been successful? Does anybody want to jump in on that, or I can toss it out?
No,
yeah,
go ahead.
Okay. We have been looking into, and I'm not sure if this is 100% answering the question, but we have been looking into a lot of ad retargeting and trying to figure out ways that we can, as a Marcom department, more tightly tie our outreach efforts to conversions across the board. So it's hard to track through submissions in the journals. We're finding that out. We always knew that, but we were hoping that it would be becoming a little bit easier to do. But we're also looking at connecting our outreach to conversions for our meetings and membership appeals. So we've worked with a company called Feather that uses a super pixel, and they track promotional activity that come from, generated from our ad content, and then that, then follows people around the web, presenting our ads to individuals who have either been to our website or been to, specific areas of our website. Maybe they've gotten to a registration page and left. So just really looking at following those folks, being able to serve them more advertisements that hammer home, the message like, go ahead and complete that action because you're going to get so many benefits from being a member or attending the conference, et cetera. So using that to kind of track back, and Feather isn't the only company in that space, but I think that this is an interesting piece for personally, for me as a communications person who always is, kind of trying to figure out ways to, prove what we've been doing has been worth the time and money and our salaries, I think that this is an interesting way to go about that, and we're hoping it'll give us some good information.
Great. And just the company you were mentioning was Feather?
Feather, Feathr, no E. I know that's going to drive some of the copy editors on the call crazy, but it's no E in that.
Okay. Did anybody else want to share digital advertising opportunities that have been successful?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit, Tom. One of the things that we've realized, and again, talking to our publishers, is that a lot of times advertisers don't have, or even the publishers, the association publishers, don't have the ability to have separate digital ads. So they really would like to use the ads that they're already using, whether it's on the association website or in other places. So one of the things that we thought was important to do was to bring in served advertising opportunities where they're in banners or different sizes inside the digital mobile platform to allow publishers to be able to get ads from their advertisers and just serve them as they would on their website. The same exact mechanism for serving ads, and all of it's tracked. So it doesn't require the advertiser to do really any more work unless they want to. There's obviously the opportunity with HTML for HTML ads, more ads that move, ads that have a lot more animation, those types of things. But if the advertisers of the publication advertise on the association websites or advertise on other websites, they already have those sizes, the IAB, which are standard advertising sizes, prepared, then they can just use those ads. So it makes it a little easier to have that discussion with advertisers about bringing ads into a digital platform.
Okay, thank you. Alyssa, did you want to add anything to that, or you certainly don't have to? But
yeah, I mean, we have a couple digital people who advertise digitally, but really, and we're trying to increase it more. So as part of just an overall campaign we've been doing with our business development advertising people is basically we bought a list of advertising leads from a company called Zoom Info. So that really expanded the reach of potential advertisers we could go out to. So we've gotten a couple advertisers through that. And so we're working to just, not necessarily with the publications, but just generally across the board, working with advertisers to appear in various ways across the association. But most of our advertising from the publication standpoint is in the print version, but we are trying to expand that.
Great. Josh Shields would like to know if it's better to have a mobile optimized website or an app for the organization with a publication embedded. What are your opinions on that? Kim, can you start us with that?
Sure. This is pretty much one of the biggest questions that we talk about with our clients. We consider it a complement, but again, maybe it goes back to budget and resources. A website is obviously more of a pull. You pull people to your site, but an app and a digital publication is more of a push, like a subscription, where you send it to them and then you can reach out to them, especially in the apps, because they obviously have push notification options and messaging, special messaging options that go into the app or go out to the people that have downloaded the app. So the messaging from your organization, whether you add additional content, things like that, is more of a push than pulling people to your website to come in.
Great. Stacy?
I don't think I can beat Kim's answer. That was good. Kim just kind of go with
Thank
that.
you.
I mean, what we've been doing, you know, our new publishing platform for our journals that was launched earlier in the year is responsive. We used to have an app for our publications, you know, several years ago, and it was not widely used because it took forever to load all the information into it. And you know, I guess it was like, you know, an old school kind of iteration of an app nowadays. It was probably 5 years ago or something, but it wasn't giving the functionality that users wanted to see. So we spent a lot of money doing a separate app, and then it wasn't used. So now with the responsive design, I don't know, I feel like it just gives you a more streamlined way to make sure that changes are made, to make sure that everything is updated and that you're showing the same important information that you would have on your website without having to repost every single thing in 2 places. So we're going down the responsive line, but again, I think, you know, you would just have to kind of see what works for people and what it is that people are looking for from your app. It might be better if you don't have as many pieces of information pulling. I feel like sometimes very complex apps and complex journals just take a long time to load, and that gets on people's nerves. So we went with responsive.
Great. Alyssa, anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, more the same. We looked into an app a few years ago, and just for budget, it wasn't feasible. But then the reader survey kind of confirmed that people don't really care if there's an app. There's more of they like the print and they want something. If they want their digital content, they want it to be responsive. So again, that's just going to be part of the conversations that we're having now as we redesign the association's website.
Great. A question from the audience is, if a magazine were to convert their print product to a digital only, how would a magazine then determine their new digital only rates? Specifically, like what of discount are we talking about? For whoever wants to jump in on that.
This is Kim. I can jump in on this a little bit. Again, another question that we get asked, but again, it depends on your organization. There are some organizations where if the advertisers are more, maybe it's I'm just going to give like an example. Maybe if it's a technological association, the advertisers might be more technology oriented, so they may have digital ads prepared, and they may be used to doing a lot of digital ads. So it's sort of what your advertising will, your advertisers will bear a little bit. So if you have an advertiser that if you're going away from print completely and going all digital, so that's the only way that they're going to reach their readers, then the advertising can probably be not ever, I don't believe, as exactly comparable price to price, but it may not need to be discounted as much. If you have a sort of a complement to print and you're upselling some of the digital, then you may need to do a further discount because they're still going to have a print component. But the other piece too, which some people forget, is that it depends on the audience. If you are forcing them to go digital only, then the advertisers, you could have maybe more pushback from the advertisers. If the audience, if you give them an option, an either or option to choose print or digital, and the way that they choose to consume the publication is digital, then you may have a little bit more acceptance from the advertisers in that instance. But it really just depends on your organization, the types of advertisers. We work with some legal publications, and a lot of the legal advertisers are not there. I don't know if that's what you find, Alyssa, but they're just not really into the digital.
Yeah.
But some others are very much digital savvy and really want to put some dollars into digital.
Yes, that's definitely part of it. Some of them are very much still into print. And really, like I've said a few times, it's the member survey. They like the print magazines. So That being said, we have some law student and recent grads from law school subscribers, and so we don't send them a print copy. We just send them the digital edition, and our digital edition is actually, in addition to having the individual article pages and everything on the website, we also have like a digital flip book. So that seems to be a nice middle ground for people.
Yeah. You're just
Great.
a history thing. Your publication was our first association client in 2006.
That's funny.
Oh, that's funny.
Yep.
Stacy, anything you wanted to add on this one?
No, not too much. I mean, I think everybody has a problem making this leap from digital advertising. Look at the newspaper industry. Everybody kind of suffers, and I think it just makes it hard to figure out exactly how to keep that value high. When you can't guarantee that users are coming to a specific page and looking at your ad where you place it, unlike an editorial where a print publication might be laid out and really frame an ad in a way that calls attention to it. It's hard to do that same type of attention grabbing thing that doesn't kind of like fall into like the visual kind of where you kind of just ignore items that are kind of popping up on your screen, like your automatic reflex is like click off the pop-up, So I just think that that's something that a lot of people are still struggling with, to figure out how you make digital advertising feel as substantial and worth the price as the print was.
Sure.
Tom, can I make one more comment on this topic?
Absolutely.
I just wanted to, if someone is considering this, who asked the question of going from print to digital only, because it is a real thing. We absolutely have customers that do that. There definitely are associations that do that for many reasons. But really, really market it. Don't surprise the members. That we've gone through this with a couple people, and it's the ones that just all of a sudden from the January issue or the December issue to the next January issue, hey, now we have a digital edition and it's digital only, really, really ease them into it. Give them notice. Let them know that you're going to be making this move. You'll probably get some pushback, but at least over a few months you can deal with that, as opposed to all the onslaught at once when you do make the move.
Sure, that's a good tip. So we have another question that's kind of related to what we were just talking about, and that is, what are some of the steps that you've taken that have been successful in ensuring that potential advertisers understand or recognize the value of each particular platform or channel you are pushing content out to, specifically in a way that they understand the value of advertising with you on platform A and platform B rather than just one or the other? Alyssa, do you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, most of our advertisers, to be honest, are in the print, and while they may occasionally do some sort of digital ads somewhere else, whether it's on the website or one of our online publications, it's not super applicable to us just because of our advertiser base. So it's hard for me to kind of answer that question.
That's fine. Stacy or Kim?
Could you repeat it one more time?
What are some of the steps you've taken to ensure that advertisers recognize the value inherent to or unique to each platform that you're offering content on, particularly in a manner so that they want to be on all your channels versus just one of them?
I mean, I know that we've offered package deals in the past, that give the option for a print thing with like a digital add-on. So for example, and this is a little less related to the publication space, but for our job board, the primary place that our jobs are listed, the paid job ads that we have are listed, is on our website. But with that, you get, with the price for purchasing an ad with us that first goes on the website, it also goes in our print publication, our print newsletter called The Physiologist, that gets mailed to all of our members, I think 6 times a year. So it's not as immediate, and you run the risk that that when it goes into TFIS, it might not even still be open. So that makes it kind of a hard sell. But the other thing that we eventually added on to that was exclusive advertising opportunities on our LinkedIn page. So we've got a LinkedIn group that has several thousand members in it, and so LinkedIn is kind of changing up the offerings that they have for group pages. They're actually trying to move everybody over to company pages and slowly taking all of the bells and whistles away from the groups. But it used to have a specific jobs page that went along with your group. So there was a group discussion page and then a jobs page. So we created language for anyone who might just be in the group posting about a job that was saying, we link these job postings on our LinkedIn page to purchased ads that first run on our website or in our print publication, The Physiologist. And if you are interested in advertising with us, here's the contact for getting a job listed with ATS in general. So that is about the best example I can give. We've just packaged them and just added on an additional fee to list in different places that weren't like really the traditional website or in our member newsletter.
Okay. Kim, did you want to add anything?
Sure. I can only speak to how our platform displays ads, but our platform usually is the traditional replica, which most publishers don't upcharge for at all. When they have a replica, it's replica of the print publication, and the ads are automatically in digital. Where some of our publishers have upsold is into the HTML responsive version, which accompanies that. So on a mobile device, it will then show the article, and then there are advertising opportunities in there. In any digital platform, if you have one, or even your website or anything like that, you should be able to see analytics. And one of the key analytics should be where people are viewing it from a desktop, from a tablet, that's just pretty much one of the standard pieces of the analytics. So if you see on the digital platform that 60% are coming from a phone or tablet, you can use that to upsell the advertiser into a sort of a mobile ad for the digital, because that's where there's hard data. The data is a blessing and a curse in digital. You also have, you can see where an advertiser's ad was clicked on, or a URL. They may not get clicked on very much, so they may think that that's not a great use. But it's just a very different world from print to digital. But at least the analytics for so the behavior of your members inside your digital platform should be able to use that in selling advertising. Great.
So one question here about podcasts. I'm going to editorialize it just a little bit. So even though that podcasts are still seeing pretty significant growth in their publishing and their readership, it is kind of being seen as an old trend. Do you see this as a worthwhile way to spend resources in the coming years for an association?
I have opinions on podcasting, so I'll take this one first.
Yeah.
I think podcasting, depending on your content, still is a really great place to be. We have a lot of research that doesn't necessarily lend itself to a short visual like video, like if we're looking at spending money on a multimedia thing, so like video versus podcast. I would always go podcast for our stuff because I do think that it makes sense to let people have a little bit more time to get into the explanation of what it is that they're talking about, explaining their research, explaining the context. And we actually have probably about 4 of our 14 journals have podcasts that do very well for them. I mean, tens of thousands of downloads, and they're able to crank out content pretty regularly, which I also think is should be a main driving factor to whether you start one or not. It just needs to continue to be fresh. So for the content that we have and the amount of that type of content that we have, I think podcasts still are a reasonable multimedia outlet to consider.
Alyssa, what do you think?
Yeah, we've actually talked about this a little bit in the past year about the potential to do that, and I think it's a matter of can we generate enough content so that it's fresh and people are getting use out of it. What kind of content would be there versus the types of content you're seeing in the print and the digital that we have, and it's also too a matter of manpower. Do we have someone who could spend enough time really making that their focus?
Did you come to a decision on any of that, or is that still kind of in the works?
Yeah, I mean, we talked a little. It's kind of still in the works. We haven't really progressed on it. I think it's also a matter of our new website and those capabilities. And again, we never really got final numbers in terms of cost because we're still mulling it over internally whether it's something we can actually do. Because we don't want to do it and just like have a podcast once a month type of thing. That's not necessarily what podcasts do. So it's still in limbo.
Sure.
I think, Alyssa, I think that's a good point. Like you really do have to figure out if you can keep it up, if you can keep the pace up. And I can say, again, we're a small department. If we were tasked with doing podcasts for all of our journals, it would be impossible because it would just, we've got other stuff to do. Happily for us, our journal editorial boards manage that process. So it's actually the researchers setting up and deciding what research they think is valuable enough that it needs to be spread to a wider audience. And so they're taking that away from us too, or off of our plates too, deciding which research pieces. I mean, I think we publish around 250 articles a month across those 14 journals, and sorting through all of that and making those decisions to be able to quickly synthesize new research into podcasts would be a really heavy lift for a small department. So for sure, manpower and ongoing, strong content stream should be, really high on the consideration list.
Sure. Kim?
I really don't have much to add on the podcast, except that it is something that we do see our customers place as a multimedia element inside their publications to accompany articles or to accompany topics, or sometimes the authors they'll incorporate author podcasts inside their digital publications. But I can't really speak to how they actually are used besides that.
Okay.
Yeah. That being said, one alternate we have looked at is having, a lot of our articles are written by our members, and maybe having some sort of like an interview with them, so just an audio file put on the website rather than an actual podcast, or we do Q&As that are featured in the magazine. So if we wanted to maybe have the audio transcript from that's something we've started to talk about a little as a possibility.
Sure.
One comment I will make in related. Oh, so go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I should say one comment I will make in regarding that. It's not exactly podcast related, but probably one of the most successful. Everyone's always asking us about open rates and how to improve open rates and improve engagement. And one of the most successful publications we've ever had with the best open rates was an accounting publication, and the editor would actually do a video every single issue, a very short video from their desk, and the open rates of people wanting to see this 1 to 2 minute video talking about the issue, talking about the highlights, were really, really good. So if you do have that capability to have your editor, publisher, or whatever do a little personalized video in each of your issues on the digital side or on their website, then people do engage with them.
Great. Yeah, that's a great tip. I was just going to say on the podcast, my 2 cents, and I've been trying to remember which association it was, but I was talking to someone who they were using their podcast as a way to update white papers that had been written for them. So they'd go back to something they had published like a year ago, do a quick little interview with that author and kind of where's the research now, what's new in that area, and then at the end, like, by the way, the white paper's on our website, go check it out. So I thought that was a really interesting use of the medium. We are at about time here, so I don't want to go over in case everybody's got things they need to be doing instead. So I did want to thank all 3 of our panelists for taking their time today. This was excellent. You guys gave us some really great insight into what's going on out there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, you're welcome. If you don't mind, I would like to possibly include email addresses for you when we send out the link to this recording in case anybody has any follow-up questions. They could get a hold of you individually.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This was excellent, and keep an eye out for the next AM&P webinar.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Bye.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.